We have Michael Whatley with us, joining us now, chair of the Republican National Committee. I'll tell you what the question was. And Mr. Chairman, thanks for joining us. It's great to see you. You know, Polymarket, the betting sites have gotten a bad rap, but they were so ahead of everything yesterday and so accurate that I guess got to ask you. Right now, the House, Republican House, 90%. Can you fill us in on it? Is the House going red? Or I'm sorry, staying red?
Yeah, we're in a great position to keep the House. We had a great set of victories last night. President Trump, the greatest political comeback in history, with a mandate. And I think that when you combine that with the Senate seats that we had and our ability to keep the House, this is going to be what we need to move forward with the America First agenda. And I think that we're going to see moves that are going to allow this economy to breathe, this economy to grow, and for us to be able to bring down inflation, bring down costs, and really, truly have an economy that's going to work for every American family.
You know, Michael, the markets themselves, there's an old adage that they love gridlock. And they don't say just Democrat gridlock when a Democrat's president. The markets like gridlock for a reason when either party is in power, but I don't know. The markets just don't trust either one to be unbridled. Is it? You would say it's unequivocally would be a great development for the economy if it was Senate, House, and President Trump.
Yeah, just look at the impact that we had during the first couple of years of President Trump's term. When we unleashed the energy, brought those prices down. You know, people talk a lot about tariffs. Tariffs are a tool to be able to get us into a fair trade agreement. It doesn't need to be free trade. It needs to be fair trade, and it needs to serve the American people, the American economy. We're very excited about being able to work with the House, work with the Senate. We want to extend the Trump tax cuts. We also want to see no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security. So there is definitely going to be a package that's going to have to move forward with it. We obviously, President Trump is going to be a leader for all Americans. He campaigned on that. We saw seismic shifts. Black voters, Hispanic voters, Asian American voters that came his way. He reached out into the Bronx. He went into Philadelphia. He went into Detroit. He went into Atlanta. So, you know, he's not going to be constrained by typical Republican borders. This is the most big tent Republican Party that we have seen in generations. Having people like Elon Musk and Robert Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard come on board, I think he's truly going to be able to build bridges and work across the aisle.
Michael, a couple things. One, you just referenced RFK Jr. Do you anticipate that he will oversee things like food and even as it relates to FDA pieces around vaccines and the like?
Well, now that the dust is starting to settle a little bit on last night, some of those discussions can happen. President Trump was very clear throughout the last several weeks. We do not want people measuring the curtains. We do not want people talking about positions in a potential administration. We wanted to be out there campaigning on the road. That's why we did.
The president himself said that, though. I mean, the
we will see what those positions are all going to look like. I can tell you, the formal discussions, now is the time to start that and start putting it together.
Right. Hey, Michael, we've also been looking at the markets this morning and looking at specific stocks, winners and losers and the like, and just wanted to get your sense of maybe how you think about it. We've obviously seen Tesla shares have risen materially. Elon Musk will appear to have a major role in this administration in the future. I don't know if you saw his tweet holding the sink this morning, superimposed on the Oval Office, very similar to the tweet that he had sent out when he first took over X. But I was also curious about things you were talking about, China and tariffs, things like TikTok, which former President Trump, now the new president again, has talked about keeping, despite some of the concerns about it being a national security threat. On the flip side, companies like Meta, which might have benefited if a TikTok weren't allowed in the U.S., but also his comments about Meta being an enemy. For those investors who are trying to think some of these things through, how should they?
Well, I think you just take a look at what the president promised over the course of this election. One thing that we saw during his first term in office, promises made, promises kept. He is going to make sure every single day that this is going to be an economy driven towards helping bring down inflation, bring down prices. We want real wage growth. We do not want the wage, decreases that we've seen over the course of the last 4 years. So I think we have a track record, and I think folks can see what he did in the past, but more importantly, how he approached it in the past. And he will definitely have a team of professionals who know what they're doing around him in the administration.
Mike, we had Scott Besson on, and I have no idea whether he eventually finds his way into the administration, but he seemed to imply he thought the IRA was toast. That'd be one of the first things that we might see the president, along with the Senate and the House, try to reverse. What about the CHIPS Act? What about, I don't know, take your pick, any of the things that the Biden administration did over the past 4 years, that all open to possibly repeal?
I would say at this point in time, all those discussions can start in earnest. We need to make sure, what the final majority is going to look like in the House. We had a great night in the Senate. I know that the leaders from the House and the Senate have already had, some initial conversations in terms of process. But we want to get to January 20th and hit the ground running. The House and the Senate will come in January, and we do not want to waste a lot of time. We have a limited 4-year window to be able to get this economy out of a ditch and make sure that we're working for every American family.
All right, well, we appreciate having you on. I guess on your resume now, you're putting that you were the RNC chair for this, what just hit you and your co-chair. Is this going to be like right at the top there? I guess
it absolutely has to be. I think that when you look at this type of a campaign, you look at these results, it is a real opportunity to serve the American people, and that is absolutely not lost on any of us.